We'd like to go ahead and call today's Sports Authority Board of Directors meeting to order. We really appreciate everyone making their schedules available today. I know we're not our traditional Thursday, so thank you all for coming out today. And it is hard to believe, but we are on to a new year. Certainly a lot has happened since our last meeting, including our very own Titans closing out a very successful 2018 season with 9 wins. Nissan Stadium also hosted the Music City Bowl on December 28th between Auburn and Purdue, where more than 50,000 fans were in attendance. The next day, Bridgestone Arena hosted the Nashville Predators for a home game. The arena team has been very busy as usual, hosting various events, including one of the best of the year, which is the Scott Hamilton and Friends event, and I have a feeling we'll hear a little bit more about that later today. And since the new year, the Preds have been on a roll. Last night was really exciting with the overtime win against the Blackhawks in Chicago. So we no doubt are on to great things in 2019, and it's a pleasure to look forward to the new year with all of you. We're certainly pleased to be here today at Ford Ice Center, and we will hear more about the incredible job they're doing here at this facility later in our meeting. But I do want to go ahead and thank Danny Butler and the folks here for hosting us. As you know, the appeals process for any action of this board can be found at the top of today's agenda. You have the meeting minutes from our November 1st, 2018 meeting in your board packet. Everyone should have had a chance to review those. And at this time, we would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Move approval.
Second. Motion and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. You also have before you revised meeting minutes from June 21st. Months after the board meeting, staff noticed that the section where the authority approved an extension to our agreement with the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, that section was inadvertently omitted. The staff has since gone back, reviewed the video, and captured that discussion. Thus, we have the revised meeting minutes from June in our packet as well. And you can find those in tab 2, page 5. If there is any questions, we would entertain those. Otherwise, we would love to have a motion or approval.
Second.
Motion and properly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Those minutes are also approved. And now we will hear from our Executive Director, Monica, for her report.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We do have a lengthy agenda, as you can see, so I will keep my comments as short as possible, and most of them are just as housekeeping. First, I wanted to announce that since our last meeting, Leslie Fram and Kalat Hama have both, due to some professional and personal reasons, submitted letters of resignation from the board. I've spoken with them. They have such great respect for you all as their colleagues, for the work of this body, for our facility partners and all of our friends. And unfortunately, they just were not able to serve as long as we had hoped, and that happens sometimes. But Leslie specifically is interested in ways that she can continue to serve and use her influence in the music industry and hopefully support our facilities in that way. So the mayor is considering possible nominees, and as soon as we hear from him, we will let you know. I would like to thank everyone who was a part of yesterday's presentation of the MLS Stadium Plan to the rating agencies. A great presentation. A lot of work went into to yesterday, and so I'd like to thank Mayor Briley, Metro Treasurer Tom Edelman, who was here, and Heidi Ullum, Wayne and Emily from Hilltop Securities. I'm not sure if they met. I do see them back there. Laura Womack, our finance and law director, Mary Cavara, Margaret Darby, Kim Atkins for being there. It was a It was a great presentation, and so we appreciate everyone's help and support. Also, it's January, so I wanted to quickly point out that your attendance charts from 2018 are in your folders. Some of our government's documents speak to attendance. We know attendance is important. And so we also recognize that things come up and life happens. But there's no question that when we are active and engaged and present, it elevates the entire board. So you can take a look at your, inside your folder, you can see your attendance from last year. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to Elisha. If you think there's an error, let us know. And lastly, and these are the fun ones, I want to wish Adam Noose a happy birthday. Today's his birthday. And I don't see Adam. Oh, hand up right there. And then this one's really special because since our last meeting, Quentin Herring, our special event coordinator, got married. And so we want to congratulate him also. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Monica. Next on our agenda is our Personnel Committee report. I believe our chairman, Chuck Merriweather, will give us that report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. Madam Chair, the Personnel Committee met on December 13th for the annual evaluation of the Executive Director. The results of the evaluation by committee members indicated the board is very pleased with Monica's hard work and her dedication and her performance. Therefore, the committee recommends approval of the 2.5 increase authorized by Metro HR for department heads. The increase for the current fiscal year 2019 and the budget can absorb it.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions regarding the Personnel Committee? I believe at this time we would entertain a motion to approve the committee's recommendation.
I would move approval.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor of the recommendation? Aye. We have one. Do we have others? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the recommendation passes. Next up, I believe the same day on December 13th, our Finance Committee met, and our new committee chairman is John Glassmeyer. At this time, Director Glassmeyer will give us his report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We had 3 items that will need further board approval. The first item is consideration of a resolution authorizing an increase in the project management consulting services for the Arena Revenue Fund related to the primary planning and design and construction of the MLS Stadium. The Finance Committee did approve this. Were there any questions around what this entails? So, Madam Chair, will you call do I make the motion or do you make the motion to approve these?
Is the committee's recommendation to
Yes, to
approve?
approve. Yes.
I'm sorry, let me just get caught up with you. My eyes are not what they used to be. So there is a motion for approval for the Finance Committee resolution authorizing an increase in project management consultant services related to the preliminary design, planning, and construction of the MLS Stadium. It's under tab 5 are the details. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposition. The resolution recommendation passes.
The second item is consideration of the fiscal year 19 Bridgestone Arena audit and agreed upon procedures. Was the CPA here, Monica? Did she come?
Is Vicki Gray here?
Gray?
Oh, there
So
she is.
the auditor is here. If there are any questions from the board, the Finance Committee did approve, recommended approval. Any questions for Vicki?
Don't see any, so we have a recommendation to approve the 2019 Bridgestone Arena agreed upon procedures. Is there a second?
Second.
I believe there was a motion and
For the audit and agreed upon procedures.
motion, Kathy made a motion, right?
I did.
Okay, I didn't hear. Properly seconded.
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The arena audit has been approved. Next up,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chair.
The last item was consideration of the Bridgestone Arena fiscal year 2020 proposed operating budget. The Finance Committee did recommend approval to the full board.
Okay, we have is there a motion to approve the
So moved.
committee's recommendation? A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, by a fellow committee member, Mr. Dudley West, who is actively engaged in this committee, certainly. So we have a motion and properly seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, passes.
And that concludes the items from the Finance Committee.
John, I think there was one more discussion during the committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, there's the Bridgestone Arena 2020 prioritized preliminary capital budget was presented to us. There's no vote at this point.
Thank you.
And I can speak to that real quickly. So last January at this meeting, the Finance Committee approved an approvals process for SIF projects at Bridgestone Arena. And so out of that process, each January, the committee will review a preliminary list of items submitted by the creditors. They will also receive an update on current projects. And then we will have some time to look at those, to see if there are any changes that need to be made over the next couple of months. And then this spring, we will come back and the board will consider the final list of SIF projects so that they can then be submitted to the bank. So this is information only, but there is a list and we do want to make sure that you all are aware of what's coming down the pipe.
And SIF is the Capital Improvement Fund.
Capital Improvement Fund.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate it. Okay, so at this point, that moves us through our committee report. Thank you, Mr. John Glassmeyer, Chair. There's nothing further regarding Finance Committee. We will move on to the Downtown Partnership. I believe we have with us today Tom Turner and Russell Payne from the partnership, and Russell Payne will give us a presentation before we consider a resolution that is before us.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time. I know we have an agenda behind us, so we're going to try and keep this about 5 minutes or so. We're here to talk to you today about, I believe it's item number 7, renewal of the existing contract. There's a provision in there that allows for a one-time renewal. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the program. This should be in your packet, so this is what I'm going to work off of. You can see the screen over here, but talk about the 2 main components of the program, take some questions at the end, and then seek approval. So, working into this first slide, one of the main programs is the daytime shuttle program that we have. We have been running this since 2002, so May last year was 16 years of service. The fleet currently consists of 29 shuttles and 5 daytime routes and has about 4,000 riders on a daily basis. So it has definitely grown over the years. Moving on to the next slide, the shuttles do operate from Nissan Stadium Monday through Friday, typically 6:30 to 6:30, providing parking and then a optional shuttle service. We also offer free parking with walking access via Lot E. We deliver, as the Nashville Downtown Partnership, the management, the safety, and the maintenance for that program on a daily basis. And as you can see, this allows an activation of a valuable community asset, offers a very economical parking solution to help support the commercial activity and viability of the downtown area. Excuse me. Moving on, just wanted to give you a couple of talking points about economic indicators and how the program has grown as Nashville has grown. These are from our residential report and our business census survey. We took a look at our 2006, 2012, and 2018 numbers. Really wanted to point out the residents and employees. You can see in 2006, about 3,300. For 2012, it was about 6,300. Significant jump in 2018, up to about 11,000 downtown residents. Those numbers are forecasted to continue to grow, as well as the downtown employees. In 2006, almost 47,000. Modest increase in 12 to a little bit over 50,000, but substantial growth again in 2018 with up to 72,000 downtown employees. So as that follows, the shuttle program grew as well, with 2006 at 584, moving up to about 1,200 in 2012, and now the 3,400, that's just the physical riders, not people that choose to walk in. So the growth was from 6 to 12, about 105%, and then again from 12 to 18, about 190%. Transportation and parking are, as a city grows, always very critical to the success. And we think that the shuttles have had a very positive impact on the downtown, allowing businesses to continue to grow. And here's some of the numbers we felt that you might find interesting, that in 18 we provided over 1.725 million trips from Nissan Stadium. So it is definitely not a small program anymore. 19, almost projecting 2 million, we're 1,925. Interestingly enough, this is more trips than the Music City Star and all the RTA Vanpool trips combined. So it seems to be doing very well there. It's also interesting to know that with your support, we're really leveraging an asset that was underutilized previously. So for you to turn around and try and build these spaces, you know, it's really almost what's the return on investment on this. 4,500 spaces, on average about $30,000 a space. You know, that's leveraging $135 million of space out there. So it is definitely a positive thing for the city to continue this program. And it has helped fuel the growth for companies like Phillips, Warner, LP Products, Service Source, Smile Club Direct, and House, all of which are clients of ours. And we do see growth coming 19 through 21. If you look at all of the entities that are on here, especially with the most recent announcement of Amazon bringing 5,000 additional employees to the downtown area, that's another 14,500 employees through the end of 21.
Well, so how long is a pass, if you purchase a pass, is that for what length of time?
It's for 1 month at a time. Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit about the growth coming down the road for the next few years, but what's really happening to us in 19, a couple of the key items. Ridership is anticipated to grow by a little bit over 500, 525 is what we've got right now through the June of this year. So we are going to have some significant growth. We will be sharing some spaces as the state of Tennessee is going to be bringing and ramping up to a max use of about 1,000 spaces. That's going to be a short-term use. And then we're always going to be evaluating opportunities and synergies for off-peak service. That is to say, can we utilize this service to provide economical parking to the downtown employees, visitors, residents in the evenings and the weekends. Moving on to BEEP, which is our best ever event program. This is free parking with optional shuttle service for Bridgestone Arena events. It has been going since March of 2010. I have a couple of different numbers. You can see 18. We did 137 events, and as we walk down through, cars utilized almost 14,000, about 16, 17,000 walkers. Total people that utilized the service in just 18 was about 29,000, but the impressive numbers are on the year-to-date or since inception, serviced almost 1,000 weeknight and evening events, 105,000 cars, 100,000 walkers, 110,000 shuttle rides. That's single trips. And then over 210,000 people have utilized that area for parking to walk into downtown or get a more economical way to get to the arena. 17 versus 18 was up a little bit. Events were up about 9%. Total shuttle riders up 14, and total of riders and walkers was up 4%. So we did see some increase there. The last slide is just giving you an overview of best event parking, best ever event parking, or BEEP. It not only serves the patrons that go to events at Bridgestone Arena, but it also serves the Bridgestone Arena vendors, employees, and service personnel. And then we also provide support for the SEC basketball tournaments, NCAA tournaments. We have here the NHL All-Star we participated in, playoff games, Stanley Cup viewing parties, and the like. And that is really the two main items. And I will open it up for questions related to the contract and see if we can seek approval.
I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
What are the hours of operation?
We are typically 6:30 to 6:30, Monday through Friday. We have some routes that go to 8:30 that are private routes for larger base employees.
And I'm sure we do, but just if you would, handicap access.
Yes, sir. We do have shuttles for that. They're on Bridgestone. They're always running. We always have one in the morning as well. We have radio systems, so if somebody needs one that they're not on a specific route, we can have one over there in 5-10 minutes tops.
Yes.
I have questions about your revenues.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not in here, of course. And you are asking to not pay
Sure.
you're asking for free parking for 5 more years.
Sure.
So where do your revenues from these parking
Sure.
passes, where do they go? How do you spend them?
The revenues are not completely captured from pass sales. So the pass sales flow to the Nashville Downtown Partnership. And then we have support from contracts and Metro that allow us to cover the remaining costs. So at the end of the day, there is not a profit that flows through this. But it is through a contract with Metro through one of the parking contracts. So there's not revenue being spun off of it.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand, so let me
Sure.
just ask a few questions then. So how much do you charge for monthly parking?
$40.
All right, and that $40 goes to the Downtown Partnership?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the Downtown Partnership has a contract with whom?
With Metro to manage the library parking facility.
Oh, so that and so you have the contract with the library parking facility, and
Yes.
you have these revenues?
Yes, ma'am.
In order to do the activities of the Downtown
Yes, ma'am.
Partnership? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. We guarantee a lease to Metro, and then whatever is at the bottom line, those go to cover the remaining
I see.
costs
So
of the
some
shuttles.
of the revenues from the library contract help to pay for the shuttles and other things that
Yes.
help make this possible, is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They typically go to the Metro General Fund, and
I
so
see.
we can access those funds
Okay.
through Metro.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
See any further questions of Russell? Thank you for
Thank
that
you very much.
presentation. I believe Monica is going to walk us a little bit through the request related to the specific resolution we're considering today. Monica?
And Russell, thank you. I mean, it's very clear that the program has experienced tremendous growth over the years and since you've been coming to us. And we appreciate the update and want to make sure that we hear from you a little more frequently. So we'll start to do that. As Russell said, the Sports Authority's agreement with the Nashville Downtown Partnership provides for the use of Sports Authority controlled lots A, B, D, E, N, T, and R. And R is, there are 2 sections, so they use both of those. We do not charge the Downtown Partnership. Under the agreement, the partnership maintains the lot and any associated bus shelters. The current amended and restated agreement expires on February 1st. There's a provision for a 5-year renewal. The Downtown Partnership is not seeking any changes to the terms of the contract, with the exception of extending it out an additional 4 months so that the term ends up coinciding with one of their major users, their existing users. So we will continue to operate as we have operated. As with all Metro contracts, there is a termination provision, and Russell and I have had some conversations even as recent as yesterday, and we all understand that downtown is changing drastically, very quickly, and we clearly value the work of the Downtown Partnership and what they allow to happen in Nashville, because you're exactly right. There are a lot of corporations and companies that would not be here were it not for that subsidized parking. So we appreciate that. We will bring the partnership back. But that is the amendment that's before you. There is a resolution authorizing that.
At this time, the board would entertain a motion to approve the resolution extending the current agreement between the Sports Authority and the Downtown Partnership.
I would move approval of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. That brings us to our MLS Stadium update. We have representatives here today that include Mary Cavara, CFO with Ingram Industries, and I believe also we have some other representatives as well from the owner's rep. So,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Madam Chair. Good morning. So I'll start with Nashville SC. Our USL club is beginning its second season starting in February, and again, they'll be playing at First Tennessee Park. The season starts on February 22nd with a preseason friendly against an MLS club, NYCFC. We're also expecting a really exciting season with some new players that we've been adding as we prepare for our MLS launch in 2020. The club is focused on preparing for the MLS start, and there'll be more news to come as we move throughout the year. So a lot going on the MLS front. What I'd like to do now is, the chair referenced, is to introduce Mark Farha. He's an executive vice president with CAA Icon. He has significant experience with building professional sports facilities, and he'll provide a brief update on the stadium project. Thank you.
I just have a question, Mary. Are you all doing anything to help promote the She Believes Cup that's coming, the 4 teams, women's teams, nationally ranked women's teams in March?
I believe that the USL Club is doing that, and we know that it's on our radar, and we'll be happy to follow up with you with the specific things that are going on.
Great. I'm just interested to
Yes,
know.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Promoting soccer of any type is important for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and good morning. As Mary said, I'm Mark Farrell, Executive Vice President at CAA Icon. We're the owner's reps for the project. A very brief update today. We continue to progress through our schematic design phase of the project. That's going very well. Working with Poplis and Hastings, and then the balance of the other designers and engineers and architects that are working on the project and are part of that design team. We are also just recently started working with Mortensen and Messer, which we're thrilled about to have our construction manager on board and helping us as well too. On that piece of it, we also are coordinating on a daily basis with the other projects that's going on at the fairgrounds to make sure that we coordinate appropriately, understand what's going on, understand their timelines and logistic planning. There's quite a bit of activity, as you guys know, going on out there, so we want to make sure that we're well coordinated and orchestrated on how that work takes place, as well as also incorporating the future mixed-use development as well too. So lots of activity going on, coming off the holiday break, but the main emphasis we're working on right now is to progress through our schematic design phase of the project.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Farha while he's with us today?
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. As we move into consideration of the 2 bond resolutions, we have had several members of a large team that have worked to get us to this point. Metro Treasurer Tom Edelman Wayne Placid and Emily Hunley with Hilltop Securities, Lillian Blackshear and Jeff Oldham, bond counsel with Bassbury and Sims, and of course, our own attorney, Margaret Darby. We wanted to just take a moment and recognize everyone that's been involved to date, and I believe at this point, Tom Edelman will take us through an update of where we are on considering the bond resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yesterday was a very important day for this whole process, and the chairman and Monica and the team that she just mentioned, along with other representatives, including the fairgrounds and the team, the MLS team, hosted Standard & Poor's in town and Moody's on a phone call to discuss the project and go over what is envisioned for MLS in Nashville. And I believe the whole program went very well. The morning group and was actually in town, and we took them on a tour of the fairground site of the stadium and got to look at just not the stadium, the fairgrounds itself, but the surrounding area, and seeing all the things that are happening out there and how MLS is going to fit into that whole section of town. So that was an important day. The next thing I want to kind of talk about is the timing. The last time I was in front of the group, we talked about the timing of the bond issue. Yesterday was the presentation to the rating agencies. We've asked them if they could have their ratings back to us by next Friday. They agreed in principle, and if they need another day or so, then the following Tuesday is kind of the deadline we're looking at. At that time, we'll release the preliminary official statement, which is basically the offering memorandum for the bonds, which is viewed by the investors as what is happening with the bonds, what are we trying to sell. So that's the ratings on the 18th, the distribution of the POS. And then we're expecting to price the bonds on February 5th. And that is when our underwriting team led by Citibank will go out to the market and just they'll be marketing the bonds from the release of the POS. But that's when they'll go out and get firm pricing on what the bonds are selling for. And then the plan is to close the bonds and receive the proceeds on February 14th. So that's kind of what's left on the agenda of the bond issue. Wayne Placide is the city's bond financial advisor, advises us on all the financing that the city does. He was instrumental in getting the presentation together, works with the rating agencies often on multiple issues. So he's going to go over a summary of the financing, what we presented to the rating agency yesterday. And then when he finishes with that, Jeff Oldham and Lillian, I think Jeff's going to make the presentation, will come up and talk to you specifically about the resolutions that are before you for consideration today. There's two different resolutions, both required by state statute. One is authorizing the bonds, and then the other is more detailed about what is going into making up the bonds for their sale. So now I'll turn it over to Wayne unless there's any questions for me.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Tom. Madam Chair, members of the board, as was mentioned, I'm with Hilltop Securities, Managing Director, and we serve as financial advisor to Metro Nashville. We were also instrumental in developing the financing, the plan of financing, which I think is, next slide, please. The assumptions that were used in developing the financing was one, the amount not to exceed $225 million, and the total financing would be $25 million in bond proceeds, $25 million in a contribution by the team, and any cost overruns relative to the project would be covered by the team. The transaction was structured as a taxable transaction because of the security pledge involved, which is the team, which is a private payment, which doesn't qualify for taxes and financing. So that's why it's a totally taxable transaction. The financing will cover all of the construction, the architect design.
Wayne, excuse me, just to make sure the board's following along, we're behind tab 10 in our board packet. I think Coach Starks was trying to find it, so sorry to interrupt.
Okay, no problem. It's a financing assumption. And the structure of the bonds will be, one, we will have 2 years of cap I, which is during the construction period. There will be no payments. The payments will come from bond proceeds. It will be a 10-year par call, and then the maximum term will be 30 years from the date of operation. The next slide provides you with the sources and uses of the proceeds. Again, as I mentioned before, the par amount of the bonds will be $225 million. The uses of the funds will be $199 million for the project. Cap I will be $23 million. Then cost of issuance of 1.1, underwriter's discount. This is the payment to the group of underwriters who will underwrite the bonds for marketing and selling the bonds of 1.5, which total up to $225 million. As was mentioned by Tom, we're planning to price the bonds where we actually sell them on February 5th and closing on the 14th. The very next slide shows you the structure of the financing. As I mentioned before, the first few years will be cap I. The first actual principal payment of the bonds would take place during 2023. And from that point on, we will have what is called level debt, meaning that each payment for each year after that will be the same until maturity. And that's important because of a rating agency like to see level debt that did not ascend or whatever. And so that's the structure that we have. As was mentioned earlier, we hope to get the ratings next Friday, the 18th, and then we will proceed with the financing and hopefully to have a successful financing. Be glad to address any questions anyone may have.
Do we have any questions for Wayne while he's before us?
Yes. Madam Chair. I'm just curious, I know that you said because this is a private entity that you're not able to have tax advantage rates and it's a taxable bond issue.
Yeah.
What is the difference? How does that work between the taxable issue and the tax exempt issue?
It's a private, the tax law is based on the nature of the payment of the bonds. If it's a public pledge or revenues used to pay the debt, it's a public offering. For example, like general obligation bonds, which everyone's taxed for that. So it's a public offering. The revenue comes from various public sources. Here, the bonds are actually guaranteed by the team, which represent a private payment, which prohibits us from being able to do a tax-exempt financing.
So I guess my question is more, what's the difference in the competitive nature of the rate? Would it indeed be a better, a more, I guess, would individuals seek that bond more if it were tax-free versus taxable? And how does the difference in the actual interest rate?
There is a difference in interest rates. Obviously, tax-exempt is much lower. And today's market, probably 20, 30 basis, and it varies depending on the market and time. With respect to the attractiveness of the bond, that will depend on the rating. We don't think that's going to make a big difference. We think the bonds will sell well. The project is a good project, and the rating and the pledges of the revenues are very strong. So we would think the market would be very receptive to the transaction. Obviously, the difference will be the cost, and that was because of the tax exempt. But we don't think that's going to have a major impact on the attractiveness of the sale.
So is there an anticipated rate of return on those bonds? Do you have a rate in mind?
Again, this is just preliminary based on current market, and it would change. And we put some cushion in, probably about 5%. That's for a 30-year bond. And that could change as we get closer to pricing. We price the bonds to reflect the current market at that time. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Wayne.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, thank you, Mr. Oldham.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Oldham of Bass, Berry & Sims. My partner Lillian Blackshear Pay is in the back. She and I are tag teaming in our representation of you in the Metropolitan government as bond counsel in this transaction. And so I guess my role then is the exciting role of explaining these wonderful documents that are in front of you that authorize what Tom and Wayne just described, that financing. And there are two resolutions. The first one is a short initial resolution that state law requires be adopted and then published in the paper, and we'll do that. And so I'm going to use it as just a reminder of what you know already to talk about the repayment structure for these bonds. The first line of payment is sales tax revenues generated, stadium-related sales tax revenues, and also sales taxes generated from sale of merchandise, MLS-related merchandise. That's going to be the first line of repayment. The second line of repayment are going to be ticket taxes collected on sales of tickets at the stadium. The third line of repayment, as Wayne just mentioned, is rent to be paid by the team under the team lease. And then if all else fails, just like your Nissan Stadium bonds, Bridgestone bonds, ballpark bonds, non-tax revenues of the Metropolitan government. So that's all laid out in this initial resolution. I thought that'd be a good opportunity to walk through that. And so if you see fit in a minute, you'll need to adopt this resolution. Any questions before I go on to the more lengthy one?
And I think it would be appropriate, since we're walking through them in order, at this time, we would entertain a motion to approve the initial resolution, should the board want to go ahead and act before we move into the next one. So, motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor to approve the initial bond resolution, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. And at this time, we would love to hear more specifics on the more detailed
Yep. So
resolution.
the more detailed resolution actually authorizes the issuance of the bonds. And so let's just walk through what it does. It authorizes the issuance of the bonds up to $225 million of par, just as you've seen described, for the uses that you've seen described, with a final maturity of February 1, 2051, which is 30 years after the start of play, which is what's been contemplated all along. The documents that are attached as, well, let me back up further, and then the pledge of those revenue streams that I just talked about. There are 4 documents attached to the resolution. The first is an indenture. An indenture is just a long, wordy document where you bestow upon a trustee the revenue streams that are going to pay these bonds back. And so when you get sales tax revenues in, and technically when Metro gets sales tax revenues in, they're going to send them to you. You're going to send them to the trustee, probably all in one fell swoop. You're also going to do it with ticket tax revenues. You're going to do it with team rent. And that trustee was going to hold those funds and use those to pay debt service on the bonds. And that's why you have an indenture. And that's what this first long document does. The second document is a bond purchase agreement. That's the contract between you and the underwriting group, led by Citigroup, but also with a team of underwriters behind them. That is the contract where you say, we'll sell these bonds to you at a price certain and an interest rate certain. They agree to buy them and turn around and sell them to the public. And that'll be executed, we technically call when we price the bonds, and that'll be later in January. And until that contract is executed, you're not locked into anything. And so what Wayne will do is lead the charge with that with the underwriters to arrange for that pricing. And when that's all done, we will have then the exact interest rates on the bonds locked in later in January. So that's the second document. The third document is an intergovernmental agreement. You've seen this before. You've actually approved it before, but we thought it made sense to go ahead and have you approve it again so that all the key documents were here under one resolution. It's no different than the one you've approved before. It's the agreement where you agree to issue the bonds and Metro agrees to provide ticket tax revenues, sales tax revenues, and non-tax revenues if needed to you to pay debt service on the bonds. So that's the third attachment. The fourth is a disclosure document. Preliminary official statement is what it's called, and is what's required in the municipal bond world. This is what gets sent out to investors, and it describes the bonds It describes you, it describes the city, it describes the project, it describes the revenue streams that we talked about being pledged to the bonds. So a bondholder can look at this document and go, okay, what am I buying? What am I getting? How do I know I'm getting paid back? And then in future years, what you do, and this is just like what you've done with your other sports facilities. There's a similar document out there for each of those. And then what you do every year is you provide an update to the market of how you're doing. You know, what did sales tax revenues look like? What did ticket tax revenues look like? And so all that comes in, and an investor 15 years from now can, together with this first document and the annual updates, make an intelligent decision about whether she wants to buy bonds or sell bonds. So those are the 4 documents in front of you. There's one other. Any questions before on those attachments? The last document that's in that stack is a letter from the comptroller's office approving the repayment structure of these bonds as being in the public interest. Just give you, and I wouldn't dwell on this, but I want to give you a little background. You're going to need to do something, administrative work next month, and I just wanted to prep you for that as you're thinking about this. About 5 years ago, the state passed a law that was intended to provide an additional safeguard for local governments borrowing money. And so under that safeguard, if a local government decides that it's in the public interest to issue bonds, and those bonds have a final maturity that is more than 31 years out. So you think, well, more than 31 years out, then you got to go to the comptroller's office to get him double checked. And the comptroller's office has to look at that plan and say, well, why are you doing it? And if they agree with your conclusion that it's in the public interest, the comptroller's office says, yeah, we agree. If not, the comptroller's office can say no. They can block the transaction. So let's talk about your deal for a minute. Your deal, you know, the primary revenue stream in your deal is the sales tax revenues that start the year the team starts playing and go for 30 years. And so every year the state is going to write a check. You've decided, the Metro Council has decided you want to take advantage of every one of those dollars. And so you've structured your bond deal to mature for 30 years after the commencement of play. State law specifically provides for that and provides for that subsidy. Y'all decided that's in the public interest. But under this safeguard law, because it's more than 31 years, we needed to go check with the comptroller. Comptroller's taking a look at that, and that letter, if you look at the bottom of page 2, says we've looked at that and agree this is in the public interest, this repayment structure. As an additional safeguard, what the comptroller's office, their practice is for anybody who comes for this approval is to say, okay, as a future safeguard, we want you to adopt processes and procedures as part of your debt management policy so that if in the future you're considering any sort of transaction that's long like that, the first principle, which this one does not, that you have a process to think about those things. And so those, I'll say the Metro Council has a debt management policy provision that you confirmed this, Mark, is just like this. In 2017, when the Metro Council updated their debt management policy, they just went ahead and proactively built all this in. And so in February, we're going to be coming to you at the comptroller's suggestion to weave identical provisions into your debt management policy. And we didn't want to show up in February with that, and you guys say, well, what in the world is this? So just letting you all know, I've rambled on. So what questions do you have about any of that?
That was a helpful ramble, though. Do we have any questions of Jeff? Thank you. I think we're good. At this time, we are looking at considering the more detailed resolution, and I'll just briefly touch on is my eyes are adjusting to turning 40, so apparently I can't see anymore, but I'm going to attempt to try and read it. Consideration of a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of federally taxable improvement revenue bonds for the MLS Major League Soccer Project Series 2019 of the Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, approving the execution of a delivery of a trust indenture and bond purchase agreement relating to said bonds, pledging certain revenues of the authority to the payment of the bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of an intergovernmental agreement with Metro Government related to said bonds, and authorizing the preparation and distribution of a preliminary official statement in connection with the sale of the bonds. At this time, we would entertain a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by our vice chair. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, the more detailed resolution also is approved. Thank you all for that, walking us through the moving parts. And I believe that brings us to our portion of the agenda for facility questions. This is the time when we can ask any questions of other Sports Authority partners who are not on today's agenda. And as I understand, I think we have a request from the Predators, and Michelle Kennedy would like to give us an update from her organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff Oldham's a tough act to follow, so I will be brief and try not to ramble. We have some upcoming transactions within our ownership group. They are insignificant in the percentage equity that's going to be exchanged, but they have the necessary result of changing the guarantee agreements that exist in favor of the Sports Authority. We're not asking for approval today. I just want to put it on your radar because it could come before you. The documents could come before you as soon as next month. But in the interest of full disclosure, the last time I stood here in January of 2016 and told you that, we didn't approve the transactions until February of 2018. So as to not be the girl who cried wolf without at least admitting that I might be the girl who cried wolf, I'm going to offer that in the way of full disclosure. So the transactions that are on the table, we have two sets of transactions. We have two existing owners who are going to sell a very small portion of what they own. One's going to sell 1.2% of the franchise. One's going to sell 1.7% to the same owner, so he will acquire an additional 2.9% of equity. So obviously not a material change of any sort. That is all among existing owners. We will have another transaction, two other transactions that will be between one existing owner who will be selling 5.5% of his equity to two other individuals who are not currently owners. One will be buying 2.9% of equity, one will be buying 2.6%. Again, small numbers, but this is contemplated in the existing guarantee agreements. In Section 3 of those agreements, it contemplates that if there are changes among the pro rata ownership table, that we would make changes to the guarantees. So what we have to do, and this is also laid out in the guarantees already, we will give to you the net worth certifications of the new individuals, ensuring that they meet those qualifications that are already prescribed in the guarantee agreements. And any of the existing owners whose pro rata shares change, we will recertify those. We've provided this year's certifications already, but we will recertify for anyone whose percentage allocations change, either up or down. So that could come before you, as I said, as soon as next month. So I wanted to get it on your radar. I didn't want you to be surprised by it. In the grand scheme of things, it's fairly benign, but it will necessitate a change in some documents that we have in favor of the Sports Authority. So I'm happy to take any questions. It hasn't been approved by the NHL yet, so I can't offer any other details really as to the parties. But if you have anonymous questions you'd like to ask me, I'd be happy to answer them to the extent that I can.
I don't see any anonymous questions, so thank you.
Thank you all
very much, Michelle. Are there any other questions for other facility partners? Seeing none, that will take us to our next portion of the agenda, which is our Ford Ice Center report. I believe Danny Butler, yes, will lead this effort.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us, first of all. It's a lot of fun to be here and hear the energy.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming out. It is part of what we do. We're open all the time, so there's always people here and are loud. And as much as we try to keep it quiet, thanks to all our staff for doing that, it's just loud. So thank you for being a part of it. You guys have heard me ramble a couple times in the past since we've been here about all the great events that we do. So instead of me rambling about it right now, I want to have Mike Skeets and then Paula come up and speak about both hockey and figure skating respectively. So Mike's going to speak first, and then I'll finish it up in the end.
What is Mike's title?
Mike Skeets' title is Senior Manager of Amateur Hockey and Fan Development. He actually just took over that department a week ago, so congratulations,
All
Mike.
right, congrats.
So like Danny said, my name is Mike Skeets, Senior Manager of Amateur Hockey and Fan Development. I just want to touch briefly on a few programs that we're doing to kind of introduce the sport of hockey and the Predators brand in the community in Nashville and around the Southeast. So the first program I want to touch on is our Future Goals program. It's a program that's in partnership with the NHL and the Players Association and is run by EverFi. It is a digital online learning platform that middle schools and high schools use throughout the Southeast. Last year we had 435 schools reaching about 29,000 students. A couple of things that we do here in Nashville to kind of grow the program is we hold a player event. This year was at Stratton Elementary, where a couple players went out and they, as you can see from the photos, interacted with the students as they're learning the program and really got to see what the program is all about, and the kids had a lot of fun. Another thing that we do here once a year is a STEM field trip, where we actually have a couple schools come out, they get on the ice down here, and then they do a field trip and different stations that actually use the examples from the online learning platform and translate them on the ice and to hockey, so the kids can actually learn, see what they're learning in the classroom into real life perspectives. Next slide is the next program I want to talk about is our Street Pride program. This was also in partnership with the NHL and the Players Association. It is currently a 12-week after-school street hockey program. We had 20 centers in it last year. 14 Metro Parks and Rec centers participated in this program. Each center got a full set of equipment and a Hockey 101 for each participant to just learn about the sport. Also, we went out and did a training with each program that runs this program so that the community centers are fully equipped and knowledgeable on how to teach hockey. The next program I want to touch upon is the Pritz Fitness Challenge. This is an introductory street hockey program for elementary schools. There are 5 different challenges that include street hockey, fitness, and nutrition. All schools get a full set of equipment to keep. Each student gets a Preds bracelet each time they complete the challenge. Last year we had 265 schools reaching 127,000 students in the Southeast. Here in Middle Tennessee, we had 150 elementary schools and 71,000 students. So it's really a great program that gets hockey into the schools, and a lot of kids love it and learn. The next program I want to touch on is the GOAL program. This is our Try Hockey for Free program that kind of helps eliminate the cost of introducing the sport to a lot of families who don't necessarily know they want to participate in the sport and then invest in the hockey. So this is a 4-week program. Each participant gets a jersey and stick, so even if they don't want to continue playing hockey, they have a nice little memento from the Predators to continue watching the game and enjoy hockey. This year alone, we had 1,200 participants in the South in 15 different rinks in 7 states. Here in Nashville alone, we had 600 participants. The next step after that is the Little Preds Learn to Play program, another program that's in partnership with the NHL and Players Association. This is a 6-week Learn to Play program where a full set of equipment is included with the program to help eliminate the barrier of cost so kids can continue to play hockey at a cheap price. We also have involvement from our Nashville Predators alumni, Cody Hodgson and Jay Moore, who go on the ice and coach with these kids. We had 1,500 participants in 15 rinks in 7 states. Here in Nashville alone, we had 350 participants. The next step for continuing to play hockey is our youth league. We've been sold out each session since the winter of 2017. Last year alone, we had 1,100 participants. After that, hopefully we go to our adult league where they're continuing to play hockey. We have 5 different divisions, and we've sold out for the past 2 years and had 1,600 participants last year. And then another event that we do is Hockey in Heels. So this is a female-friendly event. Gives it a behind-the-scenes look at the Prayers organization. It includes locker room tours, Hockey 101 starring our Preds broadcasters, and special guest speakers, and they get a chance to take a shot on the net. Last year we had 200 females attend this event, and it's continued to grow. We've kind of maxed out on space at Bridgestone for that event. So that's all I have for me. I'd like to introduce Paula, who will take you over the skating side of things.
Hi, I'm Paula Trujillo, the manager of the Scott Hamilton Skating Academy. We're just going to go through a little bit of our growth. Our first year, 4 years ago, Learn to Skate had 4 skaters when we started, and then we were awarded the Kickstart Award for 450 members our first year. And ever since then, we have raised our numbers. Last year, we had 1,226 skaters go through our program. We were awarded the top in the South Learn to Skate program, the top in the Midwest, which is the regions of Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee, and we were 9th in the nation, so we were really excited about that. The other thing about a year ago, thank you. Thank you. 1 year ago, this month, we went to U.S. Figure Skating Nationals and accepted a $10,000 grant to start our Scott's All-Stars program, which is for kids with intellectual disabilities and also mobility issues. So I can tell you that with that $10,000, we have put 24 kids through our program with free tuition, a free pair of skates, and they're thriving today. It's led by one of our staff coaches, Cody, who is a social worker, and he continues to reach out into the community on a weekly basis to get more kids involved. Super exciting. We also have our ambassadors of fun, Roman Yossi and Cody Hodgins are always here to help us out with our programming. Let's see. Go Skate. Our Go Skate event at Ascend Theater downtown this past November through, we're still currently, we graduate this week. Super beautiful, great atmosphere, wonderful skyline view. The kids loved it. It was a real wonderful opportunity for me. It was very kind of intimate. I could get to know the families a lot more, and as a result of that, it was sold out, and we have a 70% retention rate. And they are all here now at Fordyce Center in our programming. Really excited to announce Corey Aid. She's an Olympic and world level coach, and she will be joining us in late spring, early summer to help us take skaters from Learn to Skate to the Olympic level. It's never been done before. This, it's called SHARP program. It identifies kids a little bit earlier, streamlines them through sports in a really systematic way with skill development all the way to the top. We are hoping that that takes off nationally and that we will be recognized for that as well. Corey is one of the only coaches I know that has taken a skater from Learn to Skate all the way to the Olympics. So we're really excited to have her here. Our Champs Camp, which was Scott Hamilton and Friends show in November, it starts kind of here in town. We, right here at Fordyce Center, the hockey department and the figure skaters do peer raising. So we get together as one organization of hockey skaters and figure skaters, and we raise a lot of money for Scott. This year we raised over $60,000 towards his ultimate goal of eliminating cancer, which brought in all of his guest stars to Bridgestone Arena for a really beautiful show. And then those guests came the next day here, and we had a Champs Camp with 100 campers and 8 Olympic gold medalists all under one roof. Super exciting. That's a lot of hardware. The kids loved every single bit of it, and it brought people in from all over the region, all the way from Minnesota and California, actually.
So tell us who was here. Who were the?
It was Tessa and Moyer. They were Olympic gold medalists this past year in ice dancing. Meryl Davis and Charlie White, Olympic gold medalists, U.S. figure skating champions, Olympics 4 years ago. Hold, please.
That's all right. I know that's
Okay.
kind of a tough question.
That's 4. Oh, wait. Oh, Scott. Scott was here. Well,
that gives us a good
yeah, thank you.
idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll think of them.
Right.
Anyways, those are all reaching towards our future goals of, we want to be, our ultimate goal is to be identified by U.S. Figure Skating as a national training center by providing all of these different things for these kids. We want every organization or every rink in the country to have a philanthropic atmosphere to it, where they have to raise a certain amount of money for some kind of an organization that they believe in. Our ultimate goal is in 4 years to have a national level skater from our academy, an Olympic skater in 12 years, and maybe even a national. My ultimate goal is to have a Nashville Predator player like graduate from our program. It would be pretty awesome. So we'll get there. Thank you.
They did a much better job than I obviously have done in the past 2 or 3 years. So really everything that Mike and Paul have done, Mike's been with us for 4 years. He just took over this new role in the hockey world. But they have done things that no other rink in the country does. And I really mean that. To bring in 8 Olympians for one day for a camp is a huge success. To run, I think the first 4 or 5 programs that Mike mentioned were completely free. After that, they were all cost efficient for you to join. And that has always been our goal, is to get as many people skating or playing hockey as they possibly can. And Mike and Paula really have taken that challenge and have driven that further than I think we ever thought we can possibly go. So really, congratulations to both of you. With that, I will be as brief as I possibly can. Just to hit on a couple other events that we talked about. We put in your packet a list of all the events we did this past year. That list is about 1.5 pages long. That's above and beyond the normal hockey and figure skating that we do. Some highlights of that are we hosted 26 tournaments this past year. Those were youth, adult, boys, and girls. And it was a really exciting time. We had teams from Europe and from Mexico come to a couple of those tournaments, so it was great. We hosted the Scott Hamilton Invitational, which is our figure skating event every year, where again we bring skaters in from all over the region. Again, our region is technically the Midwest, even though we're in the Southeast, but we have skaters from all over the place. We hosted the 3rd annual Matthias Ekholm Clinic, which is a clinic that Matthias Ekholm, one of our players, puts on. It's a one-day clinic that all the benefits go to Make-A-Wish Foundation. So it is a great event. Of that, we had 80 skaters participate, which was completely sold out. 40 of those skaters were completely on scholarship, which was even better, and that was something that he wanted to do. Scott's All-Stars, which is an unbelievable program that Paula hit on. It is a program for kids with intellectual disabilities. I brought it up last time you guys were here. I think we were just awarded that grant. If you guys can come out and see that program sometime, it is truly unbelievable. There is not another program like it in the country. And what Paula and Cody have developed is truly unbelievable and really has done a lot of great things. On top of that, we've done over $300,000 in free programming or scholarships this year. That really is free programming for people who want to play hockey. And we've committed to that, and we've committed to that with Bellevue. There are ice times that we could sell for a lot more money, but we give away, and we should, and that's what we're excited about, and that's our favorite part. But the best event that we hosted this past year was the Texas Roadhouse Meat Cutting Competition. All the butchers from around the country from Texas Roadhouse came out here and did a competition of butchering, which was pretty exciting, and then they cooked for us, so I think that's really why I liked it so much, but that was a lot of fun. Some upcoming events that we're really excited about in a couple weeks is the 5th annual SEC Hockey Tournament. We have hosted this since the year that we opened, so this will be our 5th time in February. That tournament's February 9th through 11th. The really exciting part about SEC Hockey is it's growing. Hockey in the South obviously is a little bit smaller, so conferences have had to combine. So next year, Clemson University, Florida State University, University of Alabama, Huntsville, and MTSU will all be joining the SEC Hockey Conference, which is great. I know it doesn't fall exactly in line with the SEC, but it all works out. This summer, we're going to host our 3rd annual Gretzky Hockey School. And again, just like last summer, every week this summer is sold out with a camper tournament. Probably the most exciting thing that we have coming up, though, is on February 10th, we're going to host the National Women's Hockey League Skills Competition here at Ford Ice Center. So on the 11th is the All-Star Game at Bridgestone Arena for the girls hockey team, which will be great. But what I'm really excited about is the skills competition out here. So we're going to do a girls clinic for about 100 girls, 140? Well, we'll say 40. 40 girls will come. There'll be a speaker series and then a clinic on ice with the All-Stars. Following that will be the skills clinic. So we're really excited to be able to host that event out here. It'll be a very intimate atmosphere happening out here on the North Rink. We'll get you really nice up close and personal. The entire event will be live streamed, so you'll be able to watch it, and it'll be great. Paul also hit on the hiring of Corey Aid. Again, hiring Corey Aid is probably one of the biggest things we could have done out here. Corey is an unbelievable coach, and it is along the lines of hiring a Nick Saban for your football team. She is unbelievable and will bring figure skating to a whole new level here in Nashville that we've never seen. So just this past month or so, she started coming out a little bit more and bringing skaters, and the level of skating has already gone through the roof. Again, last time you were here, I think I announced we were going to start curling. Kim, I know you've done some curling out here, and it's a lot of fun. But we were going to do it for 6 weeks. We're a year later, and we're still doing curling. Right now, out here, we have our first ever pro curling team from Nashville participating on the ice. That team is actually called the All-Pro Curling Team. That team's made up of 4 NFL football players. Pro bowlers Jared Allen and Mark Bolger, and then 2 of our own Nashville, or Tennessee Titans, excuse me, Keith Bullock and Michael Ruse are out there. They've participated in a couple of their professional tournaments over the past few weeks. I gave you guys a picture. They're not the best looking curling team, but they are professionals, and over the past couple weeks, there's been about 100 different articles written about them, including articles in USA Today, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, and really anything you imagine. I think they're out there right now. Yep. So if you guys want to see them afterwards, you can go down and see the giant men curling out there. But it's really fun, and it's been really exciting. So with that, we've started to learn to curl, which I gave you guys a couple shirts. That completely sold out in less than a week. We host our first ever curling season this past season, which was a huge success, and we're going to have another one this summer. That's both for adults and kids. So we're going to do one during the day for kids, and it's been really exciting. And then the only slide I have, because I've learned from Sean not to have too many PowerPoint slides, it should be the next one, maybe the next one. Yeah, there we go. It is Bellevue. So we broke ground on Bellevue in July on the hottest day ever. And about 6 months later, there's real construction happening out there, and we're really excited about it. These are renderings that I did get approval to share. So it should look very similar to this. We are very excited to be in partnership with Metro Parks and the Community Center. The design is about 95% completed. So we are moving right along with that. And construction is going along well, and we should be open next fall. Again, we've started programming that. We have 4 NCAA women's college teams that are going to be playing a tournament out there right after we open. We have a tournament booked for the first weekend of October, and we're ready to rock and roll out there. So Bellevue's going to be great. Everything we've done has been really great. Mike and Paul have done great things, and the team's really hot right now.
So the build it and they will come, it doesn't really apply here. They're coming.
Oh, they're here. They want to be here.
As we're building it.
If we can open it tomorrow, they would be there. So. Any questions for anything that Mike, Paul, and myself talked about? Anything?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Okay.
So, the excitement around Ford Ice is just amazing, and I recall when this was just a topic of discussion at a board meeting, and the whole idea of coming to Antioch. I just want you to know that you've made huge impacts into the community, and when I look at the programs, and the ability to see diverse children participating, and the fact that you've made it cost-effective or free. I just think that it's kudos to you guys, and that we are making an impact on not only the city of Nashville, but hockey players, our future hockey players everywhere. So thank you.
Well, thank you, but that really goes back to the board for, really giving us the faith to say, yeah, we'll do this, and let's see what happens. And 4.5 years later, the fact that we're building another one to do this is great. So thank you, really.
I just want to follow up with that because I really enjoy coming out here because I learn how much you do. And I would think about last year, there was so much going on in the schools, but you continue to build. And Mike and Paula, I'm really glad that you all are here today, and you just have big dreams and big goals, and then you go after it, which I think is very much what the Predators organization does too. And I just want to thank you for thinking big, and I assume that's what's going to happen in Bellevue too. So there's no telling what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the plan. So as soon as we open Bellevue, we'll ask you to build another one, so we can just keep going. No, absolutely, and that's what they've been tasked with.
You've just done a great job.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate your leadership very much.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of great food around the corner, so when we're all done, enjoy it, all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. That brings us to a nice pivot to our own Margaret Darby, who's been really quiet today. So we'd like to hear from her. She's going to walk us through, just kind of giving us a heads up about Bellevue specifically.
Well, I don't have any slides, and my part of this is very boring.
Well, you are with the Department of Law,
Yes.
so we're not surprised.
Lawyers never get any love.
I know.
So the The Bellevue Hockey Center is going to be very similar to this one with regard to the agreements with a couple of fine-tuned differences. Because of the way that this building was financed versus the way the Bellevue building is being financed, we are going to have a different structure of the agreements between the Sports Authority and the manager, which is Mid-Ice LLC, which Michelle will correct me if I'm wrong, but a subsidiary of the Powers Management or the Predators organization. So this agreement for the Bellevue facility will be a management agreement instead of a lease like we have here. There are going to be two agreements that the board will enter. Just kind of step back a second. One will be a lease arrangement for the Suite B, which is the ice rink side of this building, with the Metropolitan government. And General Services will be the entity that the board will work with regard to the facility and leasing that facility. That'll be a pretty straightforward lease. Any obligations that the board takes on through that lease will be passed on to through the facility management agreement. The facility management and use agreement will be with Mid-Ice. It'll be for a relatively short period of time versus this building. So it'll be for a period between 7 to 10 years. We're still working out some of the details of this, but 7 to 10 years with the option to renew for subsequent periods at the option of the Sports Authority. The team, the manager will be making capital contributions in the amount of $3 million in 2 or 3 payments. Those will help to fund construction costs and also to purchase a lot of the equipment that will go in the building, such as the Zambonis, the necessary equipment to run ice rinks. There will be a management fee that the manager that's derived from the revenues less a specified portion. The Sports Authority will be providing for all of the utility connections to the building, but the manager will be responsible for the service fees on those connections. The manager will be, entitled to the sole and exclusive right to use, manage, and operate the rink. And then they also will be following the programs that they do here. They'll be moving out to Bellevue also and kind of sharing some of those scholarship programs and the educational programs and internships and job training and whatnot. The authority will have a certain number of civic event use dates, kind of like we have here. Because now there will be 2 ice centers, we're going to have an arrangement where the civic use dates will be kind of split between the 2 facilities. So depending on the programming that the manager has going on here and out at Bellevue, if we choose to do civic use dates, we'll kind of coordinate between the 2.
The 2 being Fort Ice Center and Bellevue?
Yes.
That you would share? Okay.
Yes. Maintenance will be structured similarly, where the authority will be responsible for the structure and the larger facility systems, and the manager will be responsible for routine day-to-day maintenance of the facility. Insurance will be quite similar as well, with the Sports Authority being responsible for the property insurance combined with Metropolitan government as per usual for all of our facilities. And then the manager will be responsible for insurance for its own property within the building and its own equipment. And that's pretty much the high level, forest view of everything. Our hope is to bring, of course, before the meeting you'll get documents, but to bring this back to the board at the next meeting for approval. And it should go to the Finance Committee prior to the full board meeting. So something to look forward to next month, some more legal documents.
Thank you, Margaret. Any questions for our legal counsel? You're doing such a fantastic job. Could you also take us through the next portion of our agenda, which is the election of officers?
Oh. Well, the elections of officers, our bylaws require that we do that in January of every year. And so you have a really old memo that is still accurate to today. And so we should do elections now. So you are going to be electing your officers. You've got your chair, your vice chair, and your secretary, treasurer/treasurer. Usually for the election of the chair, the chair can take nominations from the floor, but if the current chair is up for election for chair, you usually will turn that over to the vice chair to hold that election, so that particular election, unless you're doing a slate.
I have a question. Can we make a motion to do all three
Yes.
officers at once without the chair, relinquishing the chair?
If there's no objection, yes, that's not a problem.
Okay, well, I would like to do that, if there's no objection. Okay. So, well, we've had a great year, the past year, and I agree, Chuck, with the Personnel Committee, that Monica Fagnadson has done a terrific job, and it was really a pleasure to vote as the first item today on her raise. It's very deserving, and thank you very much, Monica. And we've had great officers, and they show up and do things that we other board members don't do, and have really dedicated a lot of time this past year. So I would like to make a motion that we renew each of these officers' terms if they will choose to accept serving another year. And that's Kim Atkins for our chair, Kathy Bender for vice chair, and Emmett Wynn as our secretary treasurer.
We have a motion on the floor, and I guess there's a second. So, motion and properly seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm certainly honored to be a part of this board and serve in any capacity, and it's it's a volunteer board, and each and every one of us try to do our very best, and showing up as part of it, but also requires a lot of time and effort. And for example, today, adjusting your schedules to be here, we really appreciate it, and it continues to be a real joy to get to know each and every one of you, so thank you. And we appreciate everyone else hanging with us today through this lengthy but productive meeting. Our next meeting for the full board will be February 21st. We'll be back to our usual Thursday schedule. And I believe Alicia was going to, and it will be held at Bridgestone Arena. And we were going to distribute the meeting dates for the year, and she has printed those. And are we distributing? Can you hand them out, or have you already? And we'll go ahead and give a hard copy out to the board so you can go ahead and put it on your agenda. The reason we didn't have it beforehand, she was trying to also lock down the locations in advance, but she's still working on that. But at least everyone has the dates and time. I know it's the new year, so please plan accordingly. Also, as Margaret Darby alluded to, hopefully our finance chair can arrange our finance committee to meet prior to our next board meeting. So we will get back to you on a date for that. And I believe that staff also survey the board on, or the committee, especially on dates that will work in advance of our February 21st meeting that's next at the arena. As always, please leave your binders so they can recycle them. And also, again, I want to remind everyone it is Adam Noose's birthday, so if you haven't said happy birthday yet, do so. I'm sure he's enjoying it by spending the morning with us especially. So if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.